friend Gina Glenflower. Once upon a time, in a small village, a poor, unfortunate man
Here.
his wife and his 6
Hey, everybody. How are you today?
Good.
Good, wonderful. Cleaning my glasses so I can see you all. All right. It is great to see everybody. All right. Anybody have any questions before we get started with our class today? All right. You feel like you're doing okay? You guys are doing a good job of writing to me when you have questions. So that's the best thing to do. You don't have to wait until you get to class. You can ask your questions anytime through the week. All right, wonderful. All right, thank you also for having your cameras on. Remember, you have to at least start class with your cameras on. I prefer that you leave them on the whole time. I feel like that's how I get to know you and how you guys get to know one another. So perfect. All right, let's begin. There we go. All right, hopefully you can see that where it says amphibians there. Yes? Good. All right. So this week, we're starting the study of amphibians. What is an amphibian? What does that mean? Britta.
Is it like they can go in the water and out of the water?
Yeah, exactly. Not just go, they can live on both land and water. That's a definition of an amphibian. It's an organism that can live both on land and in water. Now, they are cold-blooded. All right, what's the official scientific term that we use instead of cold-blooded? Evie.
Ectothermic.
Ectothermic, very good. So they are ectothermic vertebrates. What's a vertebrate? Bastian.
An animal with a backbone. Oh, and sorry,
Exactly.
I'm gonna eat a little bit because I just got back from a doctor's appointment early this morning.
Okay.
So I haven't had anything to eat. So that's the reason why I'm eating. Sorry.
Okay,
Just want
that's
to make sure
fine.
that doesn't bother anybody.
That's fine. You know my rule though, Bastian, when you eat in class, you have to bring enough to share with everyone. Wouldn't that be nice if we could do that? All right, so when you see a term like that that says amphibians are cold-blooded vertebrates, break it down. You know what cold-blooded is, and you know what vertebrates are. Now, do cold-blooded or ectothermic animals have cold blood? Yes or no? No, that doesn't mean they have cold blood. It just means that they use the surroundings to regulate their body temperature. Their temperature goes up when it's hot and it goes down when it is cold, as opposed to endothermic organisms like us, who our bodies work really hard to keep us a certain temperature. All right, so there's 3 orders of amphibians. Remember that whole dear King Philip cried, oh, for goodness sake, domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order. So now we get into order. There are 3 main orders of amphibians, and they are frogs and toads, which we call Anura, that's the order. There are salamanders, which are Urodela, and caecilians, which we call Apoda. Now, which one of those categories do you think is the biggest? Which one has the most species in it? Abigail.
Salamanders?
No, that's a good guess, but it's actually not. Let's try again. Daniel.
Caecilians?
Nope. Good guess again. See, there's no reason you guys should know these yet because we're just guessing. We haven't learned about them yet. Lydia.
Toads and frogs.
Yeah, it's actually frogs themselves. So toads and frogs. And of all the amphibians, about 90% of them are frogs. So out of every 100 amphibians that there are on the planet, 90 of them are frogs. That's about 8,000 different species. Pretty cool. All right, before we go into our class today, I want to bring something up that somebody brought to my attention. A student let me know that the student was raising their hand and I wasn't calling on them. So you guys know I want you to participate. I want you to raise your hand And I know that can be a little bit intimidating, but we've been together for 8 weeks now. So we all know each other. We all want to learn together, right? Everyone's on your side. Nobody here's judging anyone if they get an answer incorrect or they ask a question about something they don't understand. Because if you don't get it right or you don't understand something, there's a really good chance someone else doesn't either. So you're really helping the class when you do that. And we've talked about before, the way you learn is by making mistakes. Once you've made a mistake, you usually are much more likely to remember the correct answer later than if you just got it right in the first place by guessing. All right, so if you raise your hand because you want to answer something and I don't see you or I don't call on you, there's a couple reasons that might happen. First, it could be that if you've got a little bit of a complicated background behind you, or it's yellow, like if your background is yellow, the hands are yellow. So everybody raise the hand on the computer now. All right, you can all kind of see that. See how it's really visible on some backgrounds, but it's not very visible on others? It's possible that I just don't catch it. So another thing is if the way you, okay, could you put your hands down now? Thank you. Another thing is if you go like this, if this is the way you raise your hand, I might not even see that. So a thing that you can do is to make some movement. See how much more attention you get when you do this than when you do this, right? All right, so another possibility is that because we all have different internet speeds, maybe your hand shows up after I've already called on somebody else. So we're gonna do a little demonstration here that will show you how different our internet speeds are. All right, everybody turn off or turn on your microphone. So unmute yourself. Now, when I say go, I'm going to go, ready, set, go. When I say go, we're all going to sing happy birthday together. All right, ready, set, go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday
to you.
Happy
Happy
birthday to everyone. Happy birthday to you. Pretty crazy, isn't it? How we're not even close to in unison with one another. So the timing is off when we do that. So it's possible that your hand just goes up a little after I've already called on somebody else. So here's what you do. Hold your hand up. Maybe wave it if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not seeing you. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. So, and if you put the little hand up, the little computer hand in the corner, and that's not very visible, then use your regular hand. You can also type a question mark in the chat box, and that way I will know that you would like to try to answer that question. All right. All right. Now, any questions about that? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Before we leave our study of the fishes behind and start studying amphibians, I want to do a case study in which something seems a little fishy. First, though, we have some jokes, and I warn you in advance, I have a lot of them. So let's start with some fish jokes. Where do fish keep their money? In a riverbank. How do you communicate with the fish? You drop it a line. What is the most expensive fish in the world?
A goldfish?
You raise your hand though, okay? Yeah, you're right. It is a goldfish. Oh, a sand dollar. That's a good one too. I didn't think of that one. The one I had was the goldfish. What party game do fish like to play? Go ahead, Bastian.
Go fish.
Ah, that's a good one. I didn't have that one either. Salmon says, what is the difference between a piano and a tuna?
Pianos have a tune?
You can tune a piano, but you can't piano a tuna. And what is the best way to catch a fish? Have someone throw it at you. All right, now let's do some amphibian jokes. Why are frogs so happy? They eat whatever bugs them. How does a frog feel when he has a broken leg? Unhoppy. What happens when you mix a frog with a bathtub scrubby mitt? Or rather, what do you get when you mix a frog? A rub it, rub it, rub it. What happened to the frog's car when his parking meter expired? It got towed. What did the frog order at McDonald's? French fries and a Diet Coke. All right, one more page. What do stylish frogs wear? Jumpsuits. What kind of shoes do frogs wear? Open-toed sandals. What do frogs do with paper? Rip it. And finally, what did the frog dress up as on Halloween? A prince, of course. All right. If you guys know any good fish jokes, let me know. Me know. All right, all right. Let's do our case study. So this is the discovery of an odd fish. This woman is Marjorie Courtenay Latimer, and she was the curator. That means she was kind of in charge at the East London Museum in South Africa. So she was born in 1907. In 1938, she was working as her job and she got a call. This is what she wrote in her journal entry. My friend, Captain Henrik Goosen, had just returned from a trawling trip around the mouth of the nearby Chalumna River. Anybody know what trawling means? What is a trawling trip? So trawling is where they just hang the nets down into the water and the net scoops up everything that goes by. So they just drag the net through and then they pull the net up and they get whatever's caught in the net. That's trawling. So he had just returned from this trawling trip. Henrik often calls on me when his catch is substantial, meaning a lot, when he has a big catch, so that I can look and see if there may be anything of scientific interest for the museum. More often than not, I find nothing but a pile of malodorous fish. Anybody know what that means? What does malodorous mean? Mal means bad. Odor means smell. Yeah, smelly. Something that smells bad. More often than not, I find nothing but a pile of stinky fish. But this time I saw something unusual. A strange bluish fin poking through the pile caught my eye. It was like no fish fin I had ever seen in all my years at the museum. Now you got to bear with me. I just took that picture and put the little square, little blue one on top, just so you could get the idea of what she saw. She saw a fin poking out. Marjorie wrote this: the captain and I shoved the other fish off the top of the pile to uncover the owner of the odd fin. There it lay before me, the most beautiful fish I had ever seen, 5 feet long and blue with iridescent silver markings. 5 feet long, guys. That's taller than most of you. What do you think she saw that led her to think this fish might be special? Micah.
Maybe a coalmouth or a merlin.
I'm wondering what about this particular fish is unusual that makes her think that it's an unusual special fish. Jaslyn.
Because there weren't any other the same kind of fish in that area.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. She wasn't familiar with this fish anyway. Abigail.
It's blue.
It's blue. Not a lot of blue fish. Evie.
It also seems to have like fins in different places.
It does. It does. We'll compare it to a typical fish in just a second. Bastian.
Oh, like 5 feet is really long, but like there's also other fish that are 5 feet long. So I feel yeah, like kind of what Evie was saying. The fins are kind of in different
Yeah.
areas.
Yep. Lydia.
its like shape and like the way like its fins are.
Excellent. Ruby.
Its back fin is really thick. Normally fish just have like kind of flowy fins.
Yeah. Mila.
It also seems to kind of like sparkle in the gills area.
Yeah, it's iridescent, and that's kind of unusual too. There are some, but that is a little bit unusual. So let's compare it to a typical fish. You guys did a great job. You were very observant. You pointed out a lot of the differences between this fish and a typical fish. So this one has some unique things about it. First of all, it's got these fleshy fins. See, the fins aren't thin and flexible like the goldfish ones are. They're fleshy. They've got like this part down here is almost more like part of the body than it is part of the fin. And they're kind of rounded. They're rounded shape. Look at the tail. Look at this strange shaped tail compared to the way most fish or a typical fish is. Look also at these very large scales around its face. You don't see those here. This would be the gill chamber here. But there's some very large fleshy scales around the face. And you can't really see it in this picture, but its scales were really big. It had very large scales. All right, now I want you guys to imagine that you're her. Imagine that you are Marjorie and you just found this unusual fish. It's 127 pounds and it is 5 feet long. It's a really hot day and you don't know that much about fish. So you don't know for sure if this is really a significant find or not. What do you think you should do? You're standing on the boat, looking at this giant fish. What do you think you should do? Daniel.
Give it to a museum.
Give it to a museum. So she works for a museum. That's convenient, isn't it? Yeah. Jaslyn.
Contact someone who does know more about fish.
Yeah, find a fish expert. Lydia.
Like see if you can find anything else that's like that like might help you like know if there's like it's part of a species.
Yep. Yep. So do some research. Excellent. Bastian.
Yeah, like contact a fish expert, and like go back to the museum, contact a fish expert, and like like see if it's worth anything.
Very good. Abigail.
Just like go to a museum or like just call a fish expert to see if it's actually a different fish.
Excellent. So these are all great ideas. So now I'm going to ask you guys a poll question, what you think she actually did. So hold on here and I will pull it up. Okay. What do you think she actually did? Sketched the fish and took some measurements, asked the captain to have the fish delivered to the museum, took some pictures with a camera and collected a DNA sample, or loaded the fish into the back of a taxi cab. What do you think she did in reality? Remember, this is a true story. All right, let's get a few more answers. Excellent. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go. Yeah, I know. The reality is, let's look and see. You guys can see what you picked. 3 of you thought she sketched it and took some measurements. Now, I want you guys to remember, this was way back in the 1907, 1930s. So there was no DNA. She couldn't have done a DNA test back then. There is now, but she couldn't have done them. Cameras weren't even really very common. Certainly no one had one in their pocket all the time. If she ate it, that'd be a big meal, wouldn't it? Okay, let's see what she really did. Marjorie wrote, I'm no fish expert, but I have this strange feeling that somehow this fish was special. I decided to take the fish with me. And after a heated discussion with the taxi driver, we stuffed the huge fish into the back seat of the cab and headed off for the museum. I bet, can you imagine that discussion? Oh, yes, I am putting this 5-foot fish in the back of your cab. Oh, no, you're not. I could see how that would be heated. All right, now once she got to the museum, she showed the fish to the museum director. Let's do another poll question. What do you think the museum director said or did? Said it was just an ordinary fish, became excited and told her to find a fish expert to look at it, asked her to please remove the big dead fish before it began to smell, or gave her a big raise and a corner office. What do you think? This is the director, like the boss of the whole museum. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are right about that, Paul. Truth is stranger. All right, there are your results. Most of you thought that he became excited and told her to find a fish expert. A couple of you said that he asked her to remove that big dead fish before it started to smell. All right, let's take a look and see what he did. The next day, Marjorie wrote in her diary, "Could not believe that the director of this museum would not even consider the bizarre appearance of this fish as unique. To think, he said it was just another rock cod. I feel it definitely resembles some of the pictures I found in Fossil Fishes of the World." All right, so yeah, he said it was just an ordinary fish, a rock cod. Now let's look at a rock cod. That's what a rock cod looks like. There's one underwater. That's the, underwater. Now let's compare them side by side. What do you guys think? Was it a rock cod? What do you see that's different between this and a rock cod?
The fins.
Yep, fins are very definitely different. What else? Lydia?
Like
I know, Micah, hold on. We did say that at the beginning. If you remember, Micah, I pointed out that this, the coelacanth. So it is a coelacanth, but we're going through the process here of trying to figure out what, what happened at that time. No, that's no problem. I didn't want you to think I didn't see your aunt, what you were saying. I just had already, we already revealed that. So it's not a rock cod, but he thought it was. So what is different about this than a rock cod? All right, Audrey.
Overall shape.
Yeah, the overall shape is very different. Daniel.
The tail has a different shape.
Yeah, look at the straightness of the tail here, as opposed to this tail. Definitely not straight and flat. Abigail.
The dorsal fins with the one on top, there's kind of two different ones, and with the rock cod, it's just one.
Yeah, look at that. There, look, big difference in the dorsal fin. You got it. Jaslyn.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that all the fins, and especially the tail fin, look very different from the rock cod.
You're absolutely right. Evie.
Like the design that they both have is different.
Yeah, look at the pattern. Look at the pattern on this rock cod as opposed to this one. The big scale near the gill. Yeah, look at that. You don't see these different large scales around the face on the rock cod. You just see the gill cavity right there. Yeah, very good. So, Audrey, do you have another comment, or is your hand still up? Okay. All right. So there are some similarities. Rock cod's pretty big. That's a big fish. And of course, they both have scales. They both have relatively large scales, but that's about where it ends. Oh, they both have a superior mouth. See the mouth that points up? They both have the same shaped mouth. They both, of course, have eyes, but that's really about it. They're much more different than they are like one another. All right. So continuing from her diary, she wrote this. "This is the first time I've wished my expertise lie in fish instead of birds. I must contact J.L.B. Smith in Grahamstown. J.L.B. Smith was an expert about fish." So, unfortunately, when she contacted him, she found out that he had gone on vacation. So she had the fish, which was starting to decompose, right? It was starting to break down and rot. So she had it mounted by a taxidermist. A taxidermist is somebody who takes a dead animal and like stuffs it and prepares it so that it won't ever rot away. So if you've ever seen like a deer head on the wall, or if you've gone to a museum where they have the animals that are in those dioramas that would have been fixed by a taxidermist. All right, she then drew a picture. She sent this drawing to Dr. Smith, and after the mounting, she received a telegram from Dr. Smith that said, "Most important, preserve fish and gills. Fish described." That's what the telegram said. So she wrote this in her journal. Dr. Smith arrived today and has caused quite a stir. He positively identified the fish as a coelacanth, a fish that was thought to have been extinct for about 70 million years. My hunch was correct. We have found a living fossil. Dr. Smith said that this fish and its relatives were swimming in seas and lakes when T-Rex walked the earth. Cannot begin to describe my excitement. So this is what they had until she found this fish. They had just a fossil coelacanth. Now you can see that is definitely very much like the one that we saw. Some differences, of course, because it's a fossil and not the real thing. So here's a picture of Dr. Smith with that prepared, the one that they'd taken to the taxidermist. This is what it looked like. Now, the youngest coelacanth fossil found has been dated to 70 million years ago. Why do you think there was a gap in the fossil record of 70 million years? Here's a question for you. Why was there a gap? Coelacanths became extinct 70 million years ago, then came back to life. They became extinct and then evolved again, or the fish were out there, they just hadn't been found yet. All right, excellent. I'm going to end the poll now. You all said they were out there, they just hadn't been found yet. Absolutely, absolutely. So, do you think it's possible that the captain and his crew caught the last coelacanth ever? Was this the last one and that's why they haven't seen them? You think that's likely? Did they or did they not? Give me a thumb up if you think they caught the last one and we'll never see one again, or they did not. Yeah, it's really unlikely that it's the last one on Earth. The scientists probably did not capture the very last member of the species by accident on this trawling trip. So they hypothesized that there were more coelacanths out there. So if they thought, if you were them and you thought, well, this probably isn't the last one, there's probably more, what would you do? What should the scientists do now? They've identified the fish, now what? Abigail.
You should send a crew to try and find them.
Yep, you could do that. Yep, Bastion, go look for more. Jaslyn?
You can try, well, I guess try and definitely find more, but then if it's so endangered, like rare, then you'd want to try and protect as many as you can, or maybe try and rebuild the whole population of this fish.
Yep, yep. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? All right, let's do a couple discussion questions and see. If you were a scientist interested in coelacanths, what would you do next? Well, you guys just gave me some good answers for that. All right, and Jaslyn gave us the answer to this one. If there are more, why is it important that they're found? We want to protect them. If there are more, there probably aren't a lot more, right? Or we would have known about them. So if they do exist, it's important to find them. The information that we can get from studying a fish that we thought was extinct for a long time could be really significant. Yeah. All right. So here we have our preserved coelacanth. And here's a couple of fun facts about it. Mrs. Courtenay Latimer and Dr. Smith and their coelacanth became overnight celebrities. For a one-day only showing of the coelacanth in East London in 1939, 20,000 visitors reportedly showed up. And this fish was named Latimeria chelumnae in honor of Mrs. Courtenay Latimer and the area, the mouth of the Chelumna River, where the fish was caught. So here is a picture of Marjorie with her fish. Jaslyn, do you have a question or comment? Okay, hand is still up. Yep. Here's another fun fact. Another living coelacanth was not found until 14 years later. It was caught by a fisherman in the Corimos Island, hundreds of miles north of the Chelumna River. Its internal organs were preserved, leading to many interesting insights into its biology. Based on recent and ongoing observations of coelacanths off the Comoros, scientists know that coelacanths live about 180 meters deep in caves, bear live young, and live for about 60 years. So why do you think they hadn't seen them before that? Madison.
I don't have an answer for that, but I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was the person that actually caught it while doing the net fishing, did they get any credit?
It doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like it. Seems like they should, but there's no name that anywhere in anything that I read of anybody except Dr. Smith and Marjorie. Yeah, Abigail.
Maybe they couldn't find them because they're just so deep and they didn't think a fish could live that deep.
Yeah, well, certainly people can't go that deep without special equipment. And again, back in the 1930s, they didn't have that kind of equipment to be able to go that we do now. We can go a lot farther down now than they could. Yeah, they lived in caves and they lived for a really long time. Now, good question, Bastian. Here's what's interesting. When they started asking people who lived in the area, some fishermen who were in that area, they said, we've known about that fish for a long time. We have a special name for that kind of fish. It's called gombessa. So the native people who lived near the Chalumna River knew about the fish. It wasn't extinct to them. It was just extinct to scientists. They were the ones who hadn't recorded it, hadn't seen it. So if the native people knew about the coelacanth, but the Western world did not, did Marjorie really discover it? Did Dr. Smith? What do you think? You guys are all saying no. Yeah, not really.
No.
They already knew about it. And it was only really discovered by Western science. Now, this is often the case with scientific discoveries. Native people who live in the area where the discoveries are made may already know a lot about the phenomenon. All right, now let's fast forward to today, or more recent, actually. In 1997, 2 American scientists visiting Indonesia spotted a coelacanth at a fish market. They were selling it for food. DNA studies have shown it to be a different species of coelacanth. This one they named Latimeria menadoensis. Indonesian fishermen had also known about this fish for years, calling it Raja Laut, king of the sea. And small populations of coelacanths have been found off the east coast of Africa and one off the coast of Indonesia. Global numbers of both species combined are estimated about 1,000 individuals. So it is listed as critically endangered. So yeah, we definitely need to do some things to protect this species of fish. So here we go again. Now, let's talk a little bit about Marjorie. So Marjorie was an expert in birds. She was not an expert on fish, but when she looked at that fish, she knew something was different. How was she able to know something was different? What was it about her that let her know she was looking at something special? Abigail.
Because she had looked at a whole bunch of fish that the person had caught before, and none of them looked like this.
Right. Bastian. That's pretty funny. Yeah, she hadn't taken a zoology class. She had taken a zoology class. Yeah. So she was curious, she was observant, and she had a pretty good knowledge of general biology. She had looked at a lot of fish before. She had looked at a lot of all kinds of animals before. So she knew sort of what typical looked like. And once she made this discovery that this was unique, she was able to find some experts to help her to know. So what can we learn from her example? What can we learn from what she did and how she went about her? Well, first we should learn, don't stuff a 5-foot fish in a taxi cab. But other than that, how can you model her behavior? Evie.
I guess what she did was interesting because everyone was telling her that it wasn't unique and it was just a fish that had already been discovered. And even though it had been by the people who lived there, then she still tried to figure out what it was and where it was from.
Yeah. So the moral of that story for us is if you really believe something, stand your ground. Don't let everybody tell you, oh, that's nothing important. That's nothing big. Right. Daniel, we can always discover more things. Absolutely. And we can learn from her that you don't have to be an expert in something. You know, if you're wandering around out in your backyard and you find something that looks like a fossil of something, you know, just you're not fossil experts, right? But you know, when you see something that isn't a typical rock. So having a good general sense of knowledge and a questioning mind and an ability to observe the world around you can help you to make a big contribution to science, to whatever. Abigail, you don't know everything and you might need some help figuring it out. Yeah, we can also learn from her the importance of finding experts to be able to help us to make our discussions. All right, so I have a couple of more. Oh, this is the last of Marjorie. So she died when she was 97 years old in 2004. That's a pretty nice long life, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. And she was pretty famous for most of her life. I think that's pretty cool. All right, I want to do one more little short case study. This one won't be nearly as long, but let's look at a different kind of fish. So these fish are called menhaden. Anybody ever heard of menhaden before? So they're a kind of a fish that's found in the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. Now, they're heavily fished in this area. They are, oh, Cora, really? That was your birthday? Not in 1904, though, or 2004. What year was it? Yeah, 2004. Yeah, that's before. All right, so these menhaden are a small oily fish. They rarely get longer than about a foot, like a ruler, a little bit longer than a ruler. They're what's called filter feeders. What does that mean? What is a filter feeder? Bastian.
It's like so like what I would guess they do is like they take like a big gulp of water and then like filter the water out of their mouth, but keep all the food in their mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Where does the water go?
Back into the ocean.
Yeah, it goes through their gills back into the ocean.
Technically, you're swimming in fish spit.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, we are. If you think about what you're swimming in when you're swimming in the ocean and all the animals that live there, yeah, but you know what? That's okay. So they are filter feeders. Now, the way that they travel is in very large, slow-moving, tightly packed schools of other menhaden with their mouths open. So picture this, you got this huge school of fish coming at you and their mouths are all open and they're tightly packed together. That's the way they swim. So they have two main sources of food, zooplankton and phytoplankton. What's the difference between those? Zooplankton and phytoplankton. What do you think? Miles' cat wants to get in on the class. Saw it walk right on by.
He does it every single day.
Yeah, they want attention. So zooplankton, zoology is the study of animals. Zooplankton are those tiny plankton that are animals. And phytoplankton are tiny plants. So that's what they eat. Now, when they're babies, they mostly eat the plants. When they grow up, they mostly eat the animals, but they'll take in anything that they pass by. So they are these filter feeders, but another thing that they filter out of the water are toxins and algae. So they take away algae, keeping the algae from overgrowing, and they can actually remove some of the toxins from polluted waters. Now, why are they fished? They're not really very tasty, so they're not used for food. They're real oily. So they are processed into fish oil and fish meal that are used as food ingredients, animal feed, and dietary supplements. Their flesh has a high omega-3 fat content. Anybody heard of omega-3 before? Omega-3 fatty acids. You probably have somebody that you know who takes a fish oil supplement or an omega-3 supplement. You may even take it yourself. So omega-3s are really good for you, and they're very high in them. Now, they're not tasty though, so they're not made out of food. I'm sorry, they're not food for people, but they are food for animals. Also, the fish oil from these menhaden is used as a raw material for products like lipstick. So if you or anybody in your family uses lipstick, it's probably got some menhaden oil in it. For most of the history of the menhaden fishery, oil and fertilizer were the fish's primary uses. Now, these small silvery fish have long been thought of as the most important fish in the sea. Why do you think that? What about anything that I told you makes them seem important to the other animals in the sea? Abigail.
Because they can filter out any toxins.
Yep. They filter out the toxins and they filter out algae. They're also really important as a food source for other fish and marine mammals like dolphins and whales and seabirds. So they're a good food source, and they filter out this algae, if algae overgrows on the surface of the water, it blocks light from being able to get through, and it uses up the nutrients and the oxygen. So we definitely want to have these menhaden there. In fact, they're so important that their health directly affects the health of the entire ecosystem. So the problem is, as I said at the very beginning of this, they're being overfished right now. For a long time now, they've been taking a lot of menhaden out to make things like fish oil supplements, to make these omega-3s. And some people fear that the overfishing of menhaden could lead to their extinction. What kind of consequences do you think there might be if menhaden became extinct? Abigail.
There would kind of be a ripple effect because the other fish have nothing to eat, and then they die, so then the things that eat them have nothing to eat, so then they die. Yeah,
a ripple effect is a good way to put that. Kind of like a dominoes, the one affects the next one. So the predators that eat them would decrease because they didn't have enough food. The organisms that they eat would increase, right? So the little phytoplankton, the zooplankton, and the algae that they eat, those will go up because now there aren't as many menhaden eating them. And those changes would be felt all throughout the food web in the area. Okay, now let's talk about the opposite of that. What consequences would there be if we found some alternative? If we made something in a laboratory that we didn't have to have menhaden anymore, and all fishing for menhaden abruptly came to an end? What kind of consequences would there be? Jaslyn.
Well, I mean, the population of them would just skyrocket, and all they probably eat up all of their food, and then once they run out of food, then their population is gonna start decreasing again.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so their population would increase immediately. Then the predators that eat them would increase immediately, but the food that they ate would decrease immediately. And eventually this would all cycle back and forth. So they would go up and down, not just the menhaden themselves, but all the organisms that live in that area. And think about it too. If there were so many menhaden that they were over consuming their food, there would then end up not being enough food for all the menhaden, and that would lead them to starve to death or to get diseased. And that can affect the entire food web in the area. All right, so this is an osprey that has a menhaden in it, in its claws there. It's picked one up. What can be done? What do you guys think could be done? What can you do to stop the overfishing of menhaden? Is there anything you can do as an individual? What could, go ahead, Lydia.
Maybe tell some people so that they know.
Yep, education is a big one. A lot of times people just don't know. They don't know, you guys didn't know anything about menhaden, probably. None of you had heard of them before, and now you do. So a little information can go a long way. A little bit of education. Yeah, Jaslyn.
I guess it would be very minor, but you could avoid buying products that have their oils in it.
Yeah, don't estimate. Don't think that that's minor. You as a consumer have a voice. And if you get a lot of people that just say, I'm not buying anything that has menhaden in it. Now, first of all, you have to find out whether your products that you're buying have menhaden. So it takes a little bit of research in order to do that. But people can make a big difference. Yeah. Another thing. Oh, Abigail, go ahead.
Maybe like if there's a conservation thing that's like, we're gonna teach you about menhaden, you could go to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So another thing that could be done, the governments in the area could make protected areas where no menhaden fishing is allowed in this area. And then any menhaden that are in that area are safe. And it gives them a place to repopulate. They could also put a quota on the number of menhaden that were able to be taken from the water. So each fisherman can only take a certain amount of menhaden, and they don't usually count the individual fish. They take pound weight to see how much they could do. And that could be something that could do. There's actually a lot of reason for us to be encouraged about this. They can come back very quickly. One female menhaden can lay about 300,000 eggs every year. So if we stopped putting the pressure on them by taking so many out of the water, they could come back very quickly and have a chance to recover. So that's the good news. All right. Anybody have any questions about the menhaden question? All right. So I have a game that we're going to play. This is a hangman game. Hold on just a second. Some of these like shut themselves off when I don't know why they do that, but I lost the link. All right, here we go. So we're just going to play this together. You guys are going to all participate. There's not going to be like a competition. I don't have a Kahoot today. No, I don't have a Kahoot. I don't want to do Kahoot every single time. You know why? Part of the reason that I don't want to do a Kahoot every single time is because of that difference in internet speed. So some of you guys who have slower internet speed, even though you might know every single answer in the Kahoot, because it takes longer for your answer to get there, you get a lower score. So it's not really completely fair to play Kahoot every single time. So we'll do different games. So on this one, these are words that you play. The way you play hangman is you choose a letter and the letters go in up here. And then when you know the answer, you can just holler out the answer. All right, so I'll call on you. You tell me a letter. I'm just going to call on the order that you are here, that I see you on my screen. All right, Evie, you start.
So I'm just supposed to like choose a random letter.
Choose one letter.
G.
G as in girl?
Yeah.
Let's see. Nope, there is no G. So there's the head that is drawn in. Madison.
E.
E. Oh, there are two E's. Miles.
C.
Let's see. Oh, there are two C's.
Ectothermic?
Oh, look at that. E-C. T. O. T-H-E-R-M-I. And C is there. Ectothermic. Who got that one? Who yelled that out? All right. Great job, Rita. Very good. All right. Let's do our next word. This is a real short one. All right. JR.
E.
Say it again.
E.
E. No E. Daniel.
A.
No A. Ruby.
F.
There's an F. Oh, there's no F. Sorry, I thought there was an F. All right, Cora.
S.
S. No S. Bastion.
E.
E was already picked.
Okay, I.
No I. Micah.
Mm,
I didn't hear what you said, Micah.
O.
Oh, there's an O. Mila, are you here, Mila?
U.
You. Oh, no, it was bony, as in bony fish. All right, let's do, I think we have time for one, maybe one or two more. All right, 4 letters again. So now Jaslyn.
A.
There's no A. Lydia.
E.
No E. Audrey.
R. R.
No R. Paul.
I.
There's an I. Abigail.
F.
Say it again.
F.
F. There's an F.
Fish.
Or it's
Fish.
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 So Rita, pick a letter.
Fish.
It's S and H. Cause fish.
Are you sure?
Fins.
Maybe not.
Yeah, you got the, it is fins.
Fin.
Very good. Jasmine got that one. All right, let's do one more. Back to Evie. This is a big one now.
B.
B is in boy? Nope, no B. Madison.
A.
There's 2 A's. Miles.
E.
There's no E. JR.
I.
I. There are 2 I's. Daniel.
M.
M. No M. Ruby.
C.
There's a C. Cora.
D.
There is no D. Bastion.
N.
There's an N. Micah. It is not coelacanth.
Oh. O.
There's an O. Mila.
U.
There's a U. Jaslyn.
H.
There is no H. Lydia.
Sorry, my brother.
Y.
No. Cartilaginous. Cartilaginous. Remember, like a shark is a cartilaginous fish? Yeah, excellent. Excellent. All right, let's see. I think let's try. Let's try. Audrey.
C.
1 C. Paul. Paul.
O.
There's no O. Abigail.
T.
B is in boy.
No, T.
T. No T. All right, Rita. And this will be the end then.
D.
Let's see if there's a D. Nope. All right, so I'm just going to randomly choose some, and you guys holler out when you think you know what it is, okay?
Scale.
Scale.
Yeah.
Scales.
Scales. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Very good job today, everybody. Good participation. I enjoyed this class a lot. All right. Have a great week. If you have any questions, send them my way. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye,
coming.
thank you.
You're welcome.
See you next
Bye.
week.